Hello anybody, and thanks for tuning into Monday Morning Handicapping. It's been a couple of weeks since my last video that I put out, and for good reason. I had a friend of a friend go down to Del Mar one weekend. As the only horse player that they knew, they asked me to come up with some picks for the day, so I spent a few days doing my due diligence, giving them a pick sheet. And then the following week, another friend of a friend went to Grants Pass in Oregon, and same thing, they had me do a little picks list. Did all right, got a couple of winners, won 8-1 shot at Grants Pass that I was happy about, but then I also had my NFL fantasy draft, and we could get into that if anyone's interested. In the comments, just let me know. But this is a follow-up to my last video. This is the Pedigree playlist, where I'm going to be taking a look at some sires that you're going to see some of their offspring hitting the track. And the horse that I'm going to cover today is the horse Justify. So just a quick video rundown. So why is this relevant? Well, this is relevant because owners spend thousands, sometimes millions of dollars on horses to race and then eventually breed. So to know who's buying what horses for what price to race and to breed is a good indicator that the horse has talent, especially depending on the purchase price. So getting to know these runners, how much they're purchased for, when they go out to stud, and then taking a look at their offspring on the track, we can gain a sense of where these horses are running well, where they're excelling at. So when a horse makes their first career start, there's not a lot of information to go off of on the racing form, but if you know a little bit about their pedigree, you might know what they like to do best. And sometimes when a horse is making their first start and they're well bred, you can still catch them at a good price. So getting to know some of these sires and some of the bloodlines, knowing what they like to do, you might be able to catch them before everybody else sees their good races on the racing form. Catch them early and often and understand what they're going to be doing down the line. Maybe they don't run great the first time out, but you know that the horse might like a different surface or even distance. And when they go to another race that is more fitting of what you think they like to do best, you might be able to catch them at a good price because in their prior race on a different surface or a different distance, they didn't run so great, but you know that this horse might like today's conditions better. So that's why I think these videos are relevant. So that's the relevance of the video. Then we're going to take a look at Justify's racing and stud career. We'll take a glimpse at my Google Sheets document, which will be provided in the description below for anyone who wants to take a look. We'll go over the prococity of his offspring, the surfaces that they like, the distances that they like, some of the dam sires that produce some precocious runners, the longevity of the runners, and just my overall takeaway. So let's dive in. So Justify's racing career, first off, he was sired by a horse named Scat Daddy. Of course, the sire is the father of Justify. The dam or mother was a racehorse named Stage Magic. The dam sire, so the father of the dam, so the father of Stage Magic was a racehorse named Ghost Zapper. Justify was born in 2015, only raced in 2018 as a 3-year-old. Purchased for $500,000 as a yearling in 2016. Had 6 career starts, 6 wins, but was disqualified from one race 6 years later due to a positive test result. So ultimately undefeated, but technically did get disqualified from one of his races 6 years after the fact, but still crossed the finish line first. All his wins were on dirt at distances of 7, 8, 9, 9.5, 10, and 12 furlongs, including that disqualification. And a furlong is an eighth of a mile, so 7/8 of a mile, 1 mile, a mile and an eighth, and so on. 2018 Triple Crown winner, which includes 3 Grade 1 races over 3 different tracks and distances. He was voted Horse of the Year and 3-year-old male champion in the 2018 Eclipse Awards. His sire, Scat Daddy, was a 2-time Grade 1 winner on dirt, going 8 and 9 furlongs, along with 2 other Grade 2 wins. His dam or mother, Stage Magic, had 3 wins from 12 starts, each of which were routing on the dirt, and of course route races are a mile or greater. Based off his performances and immediate pedigree, I expect that his offspring should excel at dirt routes, so races of a mile or greater on the dirt. Justify stud career, he commands a $250,000 stud fee and is currently standing at Coolmore Farm in Kentucky. His fee has increased over the years from $150,000 to $200,000 to $250,000 since 2019, so the demand for his offspring is just going up and up. Justify's yearlings in 2025 have fetched up to $1.4 million for a single horse. He has produced 82 winners from 222 runners so far, which equates to 37%. His progeny have combined career earnings of $10.4 million, which equates to an average of about $49,000 per runner as of now. And now I want to show everyone that Google Sheets document, which again is provided in the description below, and for anyone who wants to take a look at it and go over some of the numbers for themselves. I'm also going to show some past performances for anyone who doesn't know where to find the breeding in the racing form. I'll just give you a quick highlight of where that's at. So here's my Google Sheets document. If you go down to the bottom tab, you can click Justify. There's other sires that I've covered. But over here in the left-hand column, we have all the top 50 earners for each of these sires. So the top earner for Justify in the US is a horse named Just FYI. Highest earners at top, lowest earners at the bottom. In the next column, we have the records. So Just FYI has 8 career starts, 3 wins, 3 seconds, no thirds. Over in this column, we have their first career win and some information regarding it. So what start number did they get their first win? Just FYI won their first race at the age of 2 in the 8th month, so in August, going a distance of 6 furlongs, so 3/4 of a mile, on the dirt at Saratoga. Fast forward to their most recent win over in this column, or set of columns over here. Most recent win was in their 3rd start for Just FYI at the age of 2 in November, going a mile and a 16th on the dirt at Santa Anita. And this is the dam sire of Just FYI. Throughout this video, we're going to figure out where horses started and where they're progressing to, just to try to gain a sense and look at some patterns of where the offspring of Justify are trending towards, where they might excel the most, whether it be distance or surface. You can check out the tracks that they're winning at for yourself. I did not include that in this video, but also some of the dam sires we'll get into later, some of the ones that are winning quite early in the careers. But this is just a quick glimpse of all the information that I'm basing the rest of this video off of. And again, down below, I have all the other sires that I've covered so far. And in the sum tab, I have comparisons between all the runners, so you can gain a sense of which horses out of these sires that I've covered are more likely to win on debut, how many starts it takes on average, how many are getting their first win on dirt, on turf, on synthetic, and which ones are trending toward dirt, turf, or synthetic, sprints, routes, the average distance are getting their first win, the average distance are getting their most recent win, and so on and so forth. So it's there if you want to take a look, but this is where I'm gathering all my information for this video. Now we're going to look at the racing form itself, and if you look at a racing form, it's going to look basically like this. Number 12, Just So Pretty. If you go over to this box here, you can see the sire is by Justify, and the sire's sire is that Scat Daddy. Commands a $250,000 stud fee right here. This horse in particular was purchased for $475,000. Here's the dam, or the mother of Just So Pretty, and the dam sire, midshipman. So when we get into dam sires and you see some of those precocious dam sires that are producing runners with Justify that are winning early, if you see one of those dam sires here, take a closer look and see if that horse is making its first career start, maybe second, and doing some of the things that we're going to learn about Justify's progeny that may signal to us that they're going to appreciate today's race distance and the surface. But this is where you're going to find that information. If you want to learn more about reading the racing form in general, I do have a playlist, How to Read a Racing Form. It's a 10-part playlist, and each video is a couple minutes long, and I break down each little section, just explaining it to anyone who might need a little help understanding what the racing form is all about. But let's get back to the slides. So starting off looking at Justify's progeny, we're going to look at the prococity. When we take a look at debut winners, 38% of his top 50 earners won their debut race, which means their first ever time racing, they won that race, which is 7 points above the average just of the stallions that I've covered so far. And as this list gets longer, this information will be more pertinent. But of all the top stallions that I've covered so far, his debut winners are hitting at 7 points above the average, so it can be fairly precocious. Average starts to get their first win for all ages. It takes Justify's progeny 2.8 starts to get their first win, and that on average has occurred in late June, which is pretty early in a 2-year-old campaign. They don't start racing at 2 years old in the early part of the year. They start in the summer. So to get their first win on average in June is pretty early, pretty precocious. Average starts to first win, if they're just a 2-year-old, takes about 1.8 starts on average in late August. If it takes them a little bit longer to get their first win, the average starts to first win, if they're 3 years old or older, 3.8 starts in somewhere around late April on average. So if they're a little bit of a late bloomer, it takes about 3.8 starts for Justify's progeny to get their first win. So as we get into dam sires and see which ones are winning early, maybe you can expect them to win first time out or second time out. If you don't see those dam sires on the particular Justify horse that you're looking at, for some reason or another you think they might be a little bit of a late bloomer, look for them to get their first win around their 3rd or 4th start. Justify progeny, looking at the surfaces, speculation based on Justify's career and breeding suggests that his offspring would excel on dirt. So if we take a look at the maiden wins, They're getting their first win on the dirt at 64% of the time, which is slightly below average of all the sires that I've covered so far. On the turf, 30% of the time they're getting their first win on the turf, which is a little above the average of the sires I've covered. And on synthetic, 6% of the time, which is right around average of the stallions that I've covered so far. But mind you that turf and synthetic surfaces make up somewhere about 20% of all races offered in the US. So when this is at 30%, it might seem low, but there's a lot less turf and synthetic races available. So this is actually a high number, as you can tell, as it's 6 points above the average. Their most recent win, dirt, 54% of the time, a drop in 10 points from their maiden win, well below the average. Turf, 39% of the time, up 9 points from their maiden win, well above the average, 14 points higher. And on synthetic, 7% of the time, 2 points above the average and 1 point above that maiden win. So the speculation was that they would excel on dirt, and they're not doing poorly on dirt, but I am a little bit surprised that they are gravitating towards the turf a little bit more than I would expect. Justify progeny distances. Speculation based on Justify's career and breeding suggests that his offspring would excel at route, so a mile or greater. So for the maiden win, the average distance of their first ever win is 7.3 furlongs, which is a full half furlong longer than the average of all the stallions that I've covered. 50% of their first wins are sprint races, so under 1 mile, and 50% are route races, 1 mile or greater, so even split there. As they get older and stretch out to more distances, have more race options available, their average win distance in their most recent win is 8.2 furlongs, so stretching out almost an additional furlong or eighth of a mile, which is almost a full furlong further than the average. Sprint races make up 27% of their most recent win, whereas route races make up 73% of their most recent win. So as we can see from their first win to their last win sprinting, it drops down considerably, and their first win routing to last win routing goes up considerably. So they're definitely stretching out in distance, and with fewer route races for younger horses, Justify's progeny are still excelling and progressing to the route races as anticipated, as they are above average for distances in both maiden and most recent wins. Taking a look at Justify's dam sires, their debut winners. Here's a look at all the dam sires where the sire was Justify, and this was the dam sire of all the horses that won on debut, which again is the very first time they ever set foot on a track. They won their very first race. So here's all the dam sires that won on debut with Justify in dirt sprints, turf sprints, dirt routes. This Curlin was actually on synthetic, but it was a route, and turf routes. 15 of 19 debut winners by Justify when sprinting on the dirt, which makes up 79% of those first-time starters. Tappet and Bernardini as dam sires had multiple debut dirt sprinters. Tappet had 3 of them, Bernardini had 2. Curlin produced some versatile runners, a dirt sprinter right here on debut and a synthetic router. So Curlin can win early and also do a multitude of things, winning at different distances and surfaces. American Pharoah, another recent Triple Crown winner, whom I would also imagine would be prominent routing on dirt, produced a turf sprinting winner on debut, the opposite of what I may have expected. Most races for horses making their debuts tend to be dirt sprints, so the numbers there don't surprise me, but the dam sires for the other surface and distance conditions are worth noting. So if you see a horse sired by Justify and one of the dam sires is, say, American Pharoah, Curlin, Quality Road, or Giant's Causeway, see if that race you're looking at is a turf route, a dirt route, or a turf sprint on debut. They might be live and you might catch them at good odds. Justify progeny, longevity. How long are Justify's progeny winning on the racetrack? An average number of starts for most recent win is 8.2. The highest number of starts for most recent win is 24. The average age for most recent win, 3.4 years old. The highest age for the most recent win is 5, so some of Justify's horses are still winning at the age of 5. This is not the best metric by comparison because these sires have not been out to stud duty for the same amount of time, but something to keep in mind for each sire. Justify has a runner that has 24 starts already and got a win. He has a horse that is 5 and is still getting a win, and the average age for the most recent win is 3.4, which you would still expect them to be racing. But as more runners come out, the higher this number creeps, the more longevity you can give to those Justify offspring and assume they're going to be good later in their careers. Okay, so just some key takeaways and final thoughts. Justify's offspring can win early in their careers as he has produced debut winners 7 percentage points higher than the average, and their average number of starts for their first win is 2.8. I would have assumed Justify would predominantly produce dirt routers, but stats show that his runners excel on the turf as a percentage of turf winners for their maiden win, as well as their most recent win, are above average, while the percentage of winners on dirt are below average. Justify's offspring certainly do excel in route races, as the average distances for both their maiden and most recent win exceed the average. The percentage of winners routing for either their maiden or most recent wins also exceed the average. Tappet and Bernardini appear to be especially productive with early winners as dam sires to Justify's offspring, as both have produced multiple debut winners sprinting on the dirt. In Justify's relatively early career, his runners are still earning wins after 24 starts and up to the age of 5 so far. So that's a wrap up on Justify and his progeny. I appreciate anybody for watching. As always, feedback is appreciated. Please like, subscribe, and or share with friends. I'm always trying to introduce the sport to new people, so I hope I'm explaining things in a relatively friendly way to people that might not know as much about the sport. So if I'm doing a good job, let me know. If there's anything that's a little bit confusing to some newcomer out there or someone that just wants to know a little bit more about a certain topic, please let me know. I read all the comments and would love to help anybody out who's curious. That's one of the better parts of this game, is collaborating with friends and helping people out and looking at the racing form together and bouncing ideas off each other. But if you are a newcomer that wants to know a little bit more about horse racing, I have a couple of playlists. One is how to read a racing form. I mentioned it earlier in the video. That's just where I break down each little section of the racing form, talk about what it's showing you, how to read it. The racing form is there to help inform the player make a decision about a horse or a given race, so it's important to learn how to read it. And once you learn how to read it and you go to the track with friends and you're bouncing the merits of each runner off of each other, you can really learn a lot. It seems like a long process. I've taken friends to the track before. I show them the racing form and they want no part of it. They just want me to tell them the merits of each horse. It's a real good way to sort of self-educate yourself about the racing form, so I hope that helps. I also have another playlist, Betting on Horse Racing. The track offers lots of different bets, and this is where I break down each bet, talk about what it is, how much it costs based on your ticket structure, all the different types of structures and how you can structure your ticket, and then a few things that I look for when I like a certain horse on a racing card, how I might play it in a number of different ways. So those are two good playlists for anyone who's a little bit new to horse racing and wants to educate themselves a little bit. I put these playlists out because when I was starting out, I couldn't really come across a good playlist that just broke it down simply. So I hope I perform the task of breaking it down simply to anybody who's interested there. So that's it for this video. Coming up next, I might do a race forecast, look at a big stakes race coming up and just talk about who I like in the race and why. I might do another pedigree video. I know they're not the most popular, but I know it's a very important part of the game and not a lot of people want to break it down. And I find that when I break it down on YouTube for people, I really have to do my homework. Plus I keep the file saved, so anytime I see a horse in certain pedigrees, I can refer back to this file and see how well they did. So that's been working out for me. And as I go through it and add more information, it should just become sharper and sharper, a more useful tool to use. I also might do a big race breakdown. That's where I look up a big race that's coming up, break down the past 10 runnings, how the race has been run, the fractions that the race has been run on average, where the eventual winner of each running of the race was throughout the race, and how far back they're coming from. Are they winning on the front end? Are they closing? What kind of weather are different types of runners running in? Just breaking it down. There's also playlists for each of these videos that I'm thinking about doing next. If you want to go back and take a look just to get a big race breakdown, say the Kentucky Derby, I talk about how it's been run over the last 10 years. But those are just some thoughts of videos that I want to come out with next. If anyone has any other ideas or suggestions, please send them my way. I'm all ears. But thanks again to anybody for watching. Good luck if you're playing this weekend, and I'll see you next time.